Hi, I'd like to make a short video about JavaScript. And this example will create a sort of a magnifier or a magnifying effect. And you can see I've got a little example here with an image on the page, and then there's a little circle here, and we can drag this around and kind of zoom in on the picture that's underneath the circle, okay? So really what's happening here is I have one image, and the image in the background is half the size of the image that we're displaying in the circle. And as we drag the circle, and you can see the effect here at the edge, right? Imagine that there is a large image as a background image for the circle here. And as the circle is being moved, the large image is sliding, right? It's sliding around. So you can see when I'm at the bottom here, when I almost align it with the corner there, the large image, the edge of it is right here. And as I drag it across, you can see like it kind of slides a little bit out of sync there, right? It kind of slides this way, right? And as I go across here, you'll see that the large image, like this is the edge of it now. So imagine there's a big image here that goes all the way over, and out like this, right? And then as I drag up, the large image is moving down this way until I get to the top here, and then it starts to come onto the screen there. It's all the way down here now, okay? And, if I put the circle in the center here, then the large image, 50% of it is on this side and 50% is over here, right? So in other words, as I move this, there's a big image sliding around behind the circle, and we're keeping it in sync with the smaller image behind it. Okay, so if this image was 500 pixels across and the large image was 1,000, when I get to the 250 pixel mark here, the large image inside the circle here is about 500 pixels across, or at a kind of a 500 pixel position, right? So we're halfway across both images. Okay, so anyway, so that's kind of the overview there, right? And it kind of works here. I'm using the background image property rather than the image tag. The image tag is kind of problematic, and the background image gives us a lot more control over how the image is displayed on the screen, right? And I also found that using the background image, the image tag, caused a lot of problems with dragging, because as you click and drag in the browser, you can grab images and pull them. So like as I was dragging this, oftentimes it would start to pick up the image and move the image, right, which is not what we want. So using the background image property, that kind of eliminated all those problems, and then you get a lot more control with your style sheet too. So really a lot of this, like a huge portion of it, is done with just CSS styles, okay? So anyway, so there we go. Why don't we set this up, okay? So I used jQuery for this just to simplify my work. You could do it all with vanilla JavaScript or some other library that you like. Essentially, all we need to do is create events for mouse down, mouse up, and mouse move. And then we need to be able to set the CSS properties for this circle here. And essentially, we're setting the left and the top to move it, and then the image inside, we need to set the position of the CSS position of the background image. Okay, so that's really pretty simple, and you could do that in a lot of different ways. I just chose jQuery because it was kind of the fastest, easiest way to approach it. Okay, so anyway, so here we go, and why don't we just get our setup. And so I'm working in this folder here, and you can see I've got two images. Really, this one was a lot larger, so I'm really just using the second image because I sized this one. It was 2,400 pixels wide, so I sized it down to 1,000 by 1333. So I'm just using this image and this HTML file. Okay, so why don't we start like this? Okay, here's the file that I started with, right? You can see there's not a lot of code there. This is a pretty short block of code. So you could actually just do the whole thing from this if you wanted. But I'm going to make a new file, and I'll save it into the folder here. And I'll call it index number 2.html. Okay, so we're starting there, and I saved it into my folder here. Let's just take a look at it to make sure it's there. There it is, right? And what we'll need to get started is we'll need a div to be the container for the magnifier. Okay, and you can name this anything you want. I'm going to just call it container. Okay. And then what we'll need is we'll need two divs inside the container. I'm going to call the background, okay, I'm going to give it the class name image small, okay, and it can just be empty. And then I'll make another div, give this the class name image large. Okay, so this is the magnified image here. Okay, this is the magnified image, and then this is the background image where we see the full image on the page. Okay, so we got a container, and then we have these two divs. And then we'll need a style sheet, right? So I'm going to put my styles here inside a style tag, but you could just link to a style sheet if you liked. And then we'll need some scripts. Okay, so I'm going to create a script tag where I'll put my script. Okay, so the script that I write will go in here, and then I'll also need a link to jQuery. And I have that here in my other document, so I'm just going to copy this. This is just the link to the jQuery on the CDN from the jQuery download page. So you can go get that, or you can copy what I have here, or you can link to whatever copy of jQuery or script you want to link to. Okay, so anyway, so there's our setup, right? And let's do a little bit of work on this just to get it kind of started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set up this small image. Okay, so let's make a class property for it here, right? So there's our class image small, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the width, and I want the width to be half the size of the image here. So my image is 1,000 wide by 1333 tall. Okay, so this is going to be half that size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say calc, right? And I'll just do the math here. So I'll say 1,000 pixels. Oops, 1,000 pixels divided by 2. Okay, and then I'll say height is calc 1333 pixels divided by 2. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll set the background image to our image here. So I'm going to choose my image, and there we go, right? So we're set up pretty good. So the box should be half the size of the image, and then the image should be inside the box, right? So that's pretty good. You'll see we'll have a little bit of a problem here. Let me go get the new file. So that was the old one, but let's load up the new one here. So that looks pretty good. My problem is the image here, the size of the box is half the size, and then the image is much larger. So we're just seeing the upper left corner of it, okay? So I'm getting just the upper left corner right now. So how do I get the image to fit inside the box? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set the background size property, and this sets the size of the background image. And there's a couple of choices, and actually in my case, contain and cover are going to do the same thing, but these usually do something different if the proportions of the image, the height and width, don't match the size of the image. So if the size of the container doesn't match the size of the image, then these are going to do something different. Contain says that the image must fit inside the box. Okay, so if the box and the image are not the same proportion, then you get a margin. There'll be some blank space inside the box. Cover, on the other hand, says the image must fill the box. And in that case, if the image is not in proportion with the box, some of the image bleeds or is cropped outside. Okay, in my case, either one of these would work because the proportions match. So I'm going to just choose contain. So let me save that, and we'll hide this. And now you can see there's my image there, right? So that worked pretty good. And there's our basic setup. So why don't we just stop here, because that's about 10 minutes. So that's 10 minutes of work there with the explanation. And I'll make another video and we'll continue and set up the styles for the large image in the next video. And this will be the magnifier portion. And then we'll do the script, okay? So thanks for watching. I hope that's interesting.